I asked a simple question the other day. I posted it on YouTube. Just 3 words. What are the greatest human pleasures? And I sat back and I waited. I expected people to say money. I expected people to say fame. And I expected people to say sex, power, influence. The usual things. But that's not what happened. One person said, when you truly stop caring what other people think about you. Another person said time. Just that word, time. And another person said peace. And one person wrote something that stopped me completely. They said, stepping out of duality, knowing, however briefly, the mono, the all, and everything that is. He says, appreciating that experience, then carrying that back into your life as a flesh and blood human. These are not answers, these are confessions. And when I read them, I realized these people just gave me a map of what humans actually want. Now, what we say we want, not what we are supposed to want, but what we actually want. And today, I want to walk through that map with you because I believe there are layers to pleasure. And most people suffer their entire lives chasing the surface ones, never realizing that the deepest pleasures are free, available, and waiting. Let me show you what I mean. The first layer of the human pleasure is the body. Health, food, rest, warmth, touch, and comfort. One person in my comment said, and I love how honest this is. It said, as I get older, it's waking up and not sore. That's not shallow, that's real. When you are young, you do not notice your body because it works. You take it for granted the same way you take breathing for granted. But when you get older, or when you get sick, or when something breaks, suddenly you will realize the body is not a vehicle, it is a gift. Waking up without pain and moving without effort, having energy for the day, being able to see, hear, to feel, and to touch. These are pleasures most people only appreciate when they lose them. And the body offers more than just good pleasure. Good food is pleasure. Good rest is a pleasure. Warmth when you're cold is a pleasure. Feeling of the sun on your skin and water on your body, and the release when you finish working out. All of these are real, and there's no need to shame them. But here's the thing. The body is the first layer, not the deepest. Because the body, no matter how healthy, still ages, still weakens, and still dies. The body can give you pleasure, but the body cannot give you peace. So, we have to go deeper. The second layer of human pleasure is connection. Love, mate, family, belonging. One person said love and mate. 2 things, and that's all they needed. Another person said, and this one hits me. She said, experiencing love when you are mature, happy and whole as a grown woman, giving birth as a mother. This is deeper than the body. Because now we're just not talking about what we feel. We're talking about who we feel it with. The pleasure of being seen, the pleasure of being known, and the pleasure of being chosen. The pleasure of holding your child for the first time. In an instant, you realize that you will die for this person you have just met. The pleasure of looking across the table at someone who stayed when the darkness overwhelmed you, and they saw your darkness and they did not leave. Again, today, connection is one of the deepest human needs, and we are not built to be alone. Something in us comes alive when we're truly seen by another person. But here's the shadow side of this layer, and I have to be honest about it. If your sense of self depends on connection, it becomes a prison. If you need to be loved to feel okay, you will do anything to keep that love, even betray yourself. You will become who they want you to be, and you will say what they want you to hear. You will shrink yourself to fit in their box, and over time, you will lose who you actually are. Connection is a great pleasure, but when it becomes your identity, it becomes a cage. So we have to go deeper still. The third layer of human pleasure is freedom. And someone said it so perfectly: when you truly stop caring what other people think about you. This is where things get interesting, because this pleasure, it is not given to you and it is not found outside of you. This pleasure is an inside job. Think about how much of life is controlled by what others think. What you wear, what you say, what you post, what career you choose, who you date, how you speak, what you admit to wanting. Most people live in a prison, and the prison is made of other people's opinion. The prison is invincible and the door is unlocked, and they never leave. I want you to really hear that. The door is unlocked and you can walk out anytime, but you do not, because you are terrified of what they might say, of what they might think, how they might look at you. The pleasure of freedom is the pleasure of realizing their opinions is not your responsibility and their approval is not your oxygen. The judgment says more about them than it does about you, and you can live however you want. This is not arrogance. This is release. The day you stop performing for an audience that was never really watching anyway, something cracks open inside of you. You can finally breathe. You can finally speak your truth, and you can finally be. Freedom from others' opinions is one of the greatest pleasures any human being can experience. And it costs nothing except the willingness to disappoint people. And the willingness to disappoint people is the price of freedom. Most people are not willing to pay it, so they stay in the cage with the door wide open. The fourth layer of the human pleasure is time. One person simply said, the greatest pleasure is time. At first, I thought, what does that mean? Time for what? Time to do things? Time to relax? Time for what? But then I understood it. Time is not a thing you have. Time is the thing. Time is not a resource. Time is the container in which your entire life happens. And here's what most people miss. You do not have time. You are time. Every moment of your life, you are spending it. There's no saving it, and there's no pausing it. It flows whether you're conscious of it or not. The only question is, are you present for it? Most people are not. Most people are in the past, regretting, remembering, and replaying, or they are in the future, worrying, planning, fearing, and hoping. Almost no one is here now fully. The pleasure of time is the pleasure of presence. It is looking at a sunset and actually seeing it, not taking a photo and moving on. It is listening to someone speak and actually hearing them, not waiting for your turn to talk. It is eating a meal and actually chewing and feeling it, not scrolling on your phone while you chew. Presence is the ultimate luxury and is actually available to everyone right now for free. But almost no one takes it because presence requires you to stop, and most people are terrified of what they will find when they stop. The fifth layer of human pleasure is peace. One person just wrote that word, peace. Nothing else, because nothing else was needed. Peace is not the absence of conflict, and peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the absence of the inner war. Most people are at war with themselves, fighting to be better, fighting to be enough, fighting to prove something. There is a voice in their head that is constantly criticizing, constantly demanding, and constantly disappointed. They achieve something and the voice says, not enough. They rest and the voice says, you are lazy. They fail and the voice says, I knew you would. This is the war. And most people do not even know this is happening because they have never known anything else. Peace is when the war ends, not because you won, but because you stop fighting, and you stop fighting to be someone else. You stop fighting to prove your worth. You stop fighting against what is, and you surrender. And in the surrender, you found something that you did not expect. You were never broken, and there was never anything to fix. The war was optional. Peace is not something you find. Peace is what remains when you stop disturbing it. The sixth layer of the human pleasure is purpose. One person said, knowledge and recognizing the Creator. This is the layer when pleasure stops being about you and start being about what you are connected to. Purpose is the pleasure of knowing why you are here. Not just what you do, but why you do it. Not just surviving, but serving. There's something deeply pleasurable about being useful, about knowing that your existence matters, about contributing something that will outlast you. This is why people find meaning in raising children, in creating art, and in building businesses, in teaching others, and in healing the sick, in fighting for peace, and justice. All of these are expression of purpose. And purpose is not found by thinking about it. Purpose is found by giving yourself to something. The person that mentioned recognizing your creator is pointing at something deeper. The pleasure of knowing that you are not here by accident, and the pleasure of knowing that you're connected to something larger. The pleasure of feeling held, the pleasure of being a note in cosmic symphony and not a random noise in chaos. Purpose is the pleasure of alignment. When what you do matches what you are made for, there's a resonance, a rightness, and a feeling of, yes, this is why I'm here. The feeling is one of the greatest human pleasures. The seventh layer, the final layer, is transcendence. And one person described it in a way I've never forgotten. They said, stepping out of duality and knowing, however briefly, the mono, the all, everything that is, appreciating that experience, then carrying that back into your life as a flesh and blood human being that dwells with other human beings. This is the peak. Most people experience life as duality. Me and you, good and bad, right and wrong, past and future, self and other. This is normal. This is how human mind works. But there are moments, rare, fleeting and overwhelming, where the duality collapses and you touch the one. This happens in deep meditation, in near-death experiences, and in moments of overwhelming love. In certain music, as another person said it, music is mystical and it is magical. In nature, at the right moment, in flow states where the self disappears. In prayer, when prayer becomes more than words, what does it feel like? Like coming home to a place that you have never been. Like remembering something you never knew you forgot. Like being dissolved and more of yourself at the same time. Like realizing that separation was always an illusion. That you were never alone and never could be. The thing you were seeking, what was doing the seeking all along. This is transcendence. And once you have touched it, even briefly, everything changes. You know now and you have tasted, and nothing else will fully satisfy. Now, let me show you something. Look at the deepest pleasures we just went through. Freedom, when you stop caring what others think. Time, when you are fully present. Peace, when the inner war stops. Purpose is when you align with why you are here. Transcendence, when you touch the source. And what do they all have in common? They all require you to stop. Stop performing, stop fighting, stop running, and stop seeking yourself outside of yourself. The greatest human pleasures are not additions. They are subtractions, and they are not things you get. They are things you stop blocking. Freedom is there when you stop caring. Presence is there when you stop escaping. Peace is there when you stop fighting. Purpose is there when you stop performing. Transcendence is there when you stop separating. You are not far from pleasure. You are just adding too much noise to hear it. So here is my invitation. Stop. Just for a moment. Stop reading comments. Stop planning your day. Stop thinking about what comes next. Just be here. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Feel the fact that you exist right now. Right now, in this moment, alive, aware, and here. That is the real pleasure. Not something you chase, something you allow. And the more you practice allowing it, the more it becomes your default state. Until one day you realize that you were never seeking pleasure. You just forgot that the greatest human pleasures are not out there. They are in here, waiting for you to stop and finally notice. Die empty, but taste the fullness first.